Better World Blueprint. Good humans doing good things.
If all you did was look at the news, you'd think the world was going to hell in a handbasket. But there is a flip side to that negativity, and it's all the people out there who are trying to make this world a better place. Hi, I'm Siobhan Hunt, and my aim with this podcast is to find those people and work out what led them to a life of purpose. A reminder, if you like, that we've still got reason to hope. This is a Better World Blueprint. Casey Beros' gift to the world is her writing. Her words catch and pin down thoughts and feelings that could otherwise float away, helping us make sense of this chaotic and beautiful world. Most recently, she's turned her pen to something both personal and painful: her father's mesothelioma diagnosis and her experience caring for him. Next of Kin is a podcast and website that gives words to grief and helps others navigate both the emotional and bureaucratic quagmire that is caring for someone you love who's dying. This is writer, author and podcaster Casey Beros. Hello, Casey. Welcome to A Better World Blueprint.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Tell me, what has led you to this work that you do in health and wellbeing?
I think in terms of health and wellbeing, there has been, if I'm really honest, and my psychologist would have a field day with this, I suspect it's driven from a bit of a fear of illness and of death, which is a bit strange because often when you try and unpick that, it'll be that you've had some horrible experience in your younger years. And I didn't. We didn't have a lot of illness or a lot of death around us. But I did have this one experience where my dad had a friend out from the UK who was doing her PhD in men with HIV. And they had a group of men over to our house. I must have been 5 or 6, I was young. And they were at our house sitting in circle having a workshop talking about what it was like to live with HIV. But as a 5-year-old, you don't usually really know about HIV, especially in those days. It's nothing like what it is now, where it can be like really well managed and people can live long, happy, healthy, normal lives. It was really scary. And I think that's a good example of how your sort of early childhood experiences can shape you, and in the best possible way. Like, that wasn't damaging to me. Actually, I think it's where a lot of my curiosity stemmed from. But I think it also did bring out in me a little bit of a fear, maybe, of illness and of death. And so I suspect that very early in my career, from, my last year of university, I knew that health journalism was all I wanted to do, and I focused all of my energy and attention on going after that one kind of track, if you will. And I suspect that part of that is because I felt like knowledge was power. And if I knew as much as possible, then I might be able to protect myself and the people that I love from dying from a disease that they don't have to die from acting on something quickly. And that, I suppose, is what has led me all the way to Next of Kin, which is about giving people a platform for advocacy, someone to hold their hand and to act as next of kin.
Now, I know you have a long career in media, so you were already on Instagram, you were already doing those things, but you were also in the middle of dealing with your own grief and, I guess, grappling with that understanding that your dad had mesothelioma. So at what point did you decide, I'm going to do something about this? And then what did you do next? Because it's all happening to you. I mean, I'm trying to explain for those who aren't involved in media. I know that people might assume because you have these skills that it was a natural thing for you to just go, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to document our experience. I'm going to try and help other people. But put that on top of your own personal experience of being the main carer for your dad, a very serious illness. I'm just wondering how you made the decision, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to be the most effective.
Mm. Look, I've always written to make sense of the world around me, whether I was sharing that publicly or not. And I'm not sort of an avid journaler or anything like that, but I would, whenever I've gone through anything difficult, I've written about it because it helps me make sense of it. And there's this saying that, you shouldn't write from the wound, you should write from the scar, meaning don't write when something's happening to you in the moment, because perhaps your experience of that may be swayed by, especially if it's sort of a really challenging emotional setting. But that's what helps me make sense of my thoughts and feelings about something. To answer your question, I trod really carefully with Dad on that. In the beginning of his illness, he was incredibly private. And that was really hard for me because I, of course, wanted to respect his wishes and just be in it with him. So I was capturing my own thoughts and feelings on the side, but obviously I didn't then have the outlet for that. And so in a way, that was really beautiful because it just forced me to put the blinkers on and just be in the experience with him. But towards the end of our journey together, Dad was diagnosed in June 2021, and in September 2023, so more than 2 years later, we knew that we were coming to the end of the journey, and we had spent a long time talking about what we wanted his legacy to be, which of course is his 5 children first and foremost. But Dad was an intellectual. He was an incredibly deep thinker, and he would sort of interrogate a subject and pull it apart, and we would sort of sit back and then piece it all together. And so, of course, navigating our way through the healthcare system, the aged care system, the death care system, they were all really rich opportunities to do exactly that. And we learned so much, and we were so surprised by a lot of how great some things were and how awful other things were. And so we agreed that it would be a missed opportunity and a shame to not capture that and share it with other people. Yeah, my hope is that there's something in there that is of comfort to some people or that helps them cut a corner. Not everything has to be hard, and a lot of particularly the administration of navigating that system is really complex, even for people who are highly educated. And, I've worked in health for a long time, and I found it really confusing and challenging and frustrating. And it's not easy, no matter who you are. So I hope that something that I write or say can help in some small way.
Did you ever stumble during the process of putting all of this together?
There has certainly been times where I have been mindful of not, I call it grief washing, like greenwashing, like when people
Yeah.
claim to sort of be environmental, but really behind the scenes, they're not. I'm really mindful of that. And I really wanted people to see what it's like, so I'd take footage of me making his hospital bed. I'd take footage of me crying whilst making his hospital bed. I wanted people to really get a sense of understanding what that's like. And you can't do that unless you capture it. So there were definitely moments in the journey where I felt like, am I striking the right balance here? And I guess that just always has to come back to what your intention is. He knew that my intentions were good and pure. I know that my intentions were good and pure. And so there's a fine line there, and part of you just has to switch off from that and know that you're doing it for the right reasons. But that would be the times when I stumble most, is when I overthink it.
Do you think doing next of kin and documenting things as you did with your dad, did it change you?
That's a great question. Losing Dad and caring for Dad definitely changed me. And doing the work has changed me because it has refined my voice in that space. I now know how to act both personally and professionally as a patient advocate. And that is health communication is my thing. It's always been my thing, but it has given me a totally different lens and a different string to my bow that is in action that I'm using frequently. And so the work has changed me. It has pushed me further along the path in my career in a way that I'm really grateful for, because I'm only about doing things that move people.
What kind of impact have you seen from your work, from Next of Kin, from the Instagram? What kind of response have you had from your work?
Oh, look, I've been so blown away, really, truly blown away by people's response. And that's obviously the point, and that's really beautiful. But one of the other things that has happened that has been just probably a really nice side effect is that for my friends and my family in particular, people who knew him, they feel like they're getting to know him better through the content that I create. And that makes me really happy, because Dad was an incredibly special person who probably should have had more success in both professionally and personally than he was able to muster for himself. And I like sharing him with the world. Every stage that I get on, I share a little bit of our story. Before he died, we used to watch this show called 1883. It's the prequel to Yellowstone with Kevin Costner. And of course, when someone's really ill, like there's not a lot that you can do at the end. So we would watch these series so that we could kind of step out of our world and step into somebody else's world for a bit. And there's this one scene in 1883 where Shay, who's one of the older cowboys, and Elsa, I think her name is, the younger cowgirl, she's just lost the love of her life in this sort of shootout, and she's heartbroken. And Shay, the older cowboy, says to her, because he has lost his wife, he says something along the lines of, when somebody we love dies, a little part of us dies with them, but a little part of them lives on in us. And our job is to take them and show them the world. And when I was little, Dad and I used to read Dr. Seuss books all the time, and our favourite one was Oh, the Places You'll Go. And so when Dad was really sick and we knew that we were going to lose him, we decided that we would get matching tattoos. And so we got Oh, the Places We'll Go on our wrist, so that he would know that I would take him with me on every stage that I was on. And that was so special to get to do that, to know that that little bit of ink on his arm was going to go with him, and this bit of ink on my arm was going to come with me. That, I don't know, that I love that I've got that little part of him. And I love that through the content that I create, I can share a little bit of him with the world.
I didn't think I was going to cry for a long moment through that. And that story just, I remember seeing your post on that, and it's such a beautiful story. I didn't actually know the bit about 1883. So, Casey, thank you so much. I've really been moved by everything that you've done, and thank you so much for talking with me.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Casey Beros, writer and founder of Next of Kin. If you'd like to learn more about Casey, check out the links in the notes of this episode. Next time on A Better World Blueprint, I chat to someone who's changing the world through architecture.
A constant feedback we get is they feel safe. And I think culturally that is so important.
It really is incredible how many people are doing good things in this world. And if you want to keep hearing about them, make sure you subscribe. And hey, make a difference yourself. Rate and review this podcast so more people can feel better about the state of the world. I'm Siobhan Hunt, and this is A Better World Blueprint. See you next time.